We are going to tackle the math behind how often does the big blind flop a set or quads in a limped or unraised pot. To start off, our assumption is one of our assumptions is that the odds of flopping quads or a set are 11.75%. That's with a pocket pair, which is what we're going to do this video on, and that comes out to one chance in about 8.5 attempts with the pocket pair. Now we're dealt a pocket pair 1 in 17 hands. However, we cannot use this since some of these hands are raised with, and that makes this a little bit tricky question to answer depending on what type of range players play. So the real question is, how often does a player raise pre-flop? Now with us, in front of us we have a range here. There's 1,326 different combinations of cards that players are dealt, and different players have different preferences as far as raising. Here the tag to lag range might raise with something like this. Now obviously it's not going to be exactly like this, but it can vary a little bit, but just to give us an idea. Here is a tighter raising range of a tag rock that doesn't like to raise very often, and maybe likes to trap a little more. And here is a different type of range I've seen in play where it's a tag, but they typically only raise with maybe like pocket pairs, even the smaller pairs, and maybe ace-king suited, and they will limp with the other types of hands like ace-queen suited, ace-jack suited. And lastly, we will throw a maniacs range, and I'm just coming up with a range now because the maniacs range can vary quite a bit as far as how they go, but we'll come up with one for an example. And let's work with the mechanics or math behind this. Let us start out with the tag lag range here, and in this situation we have they're raising with approximately 168 combos, or about 12.7%, which means they're not raising with the rest of the hands. And what we're looking at is a limped pot, so we want to know how often they have flop a set when they didn't raise pre-flop. So if you look at this situation here, we see pocket pairs left. There are 7 pocket pairs left, so 7 times 6 combos is 42. And we take that 42 number and we divide it into the 1158, and that gives us the odds of flopping a set or quads at 0.043%, which comes out to approximately 1 in every 234 hands or so. So it doesn't happen often when they don't raise for this particular player. Now let's take a look at another style. We have the tag to rock range. And with this range, they are raising with approximately 54 combos, or about 4% of the time. So they're not raising very often. They only have premiums. Now they have pocket pairs they're not raising with, comes out to approximately 48 combos. And we divide that by the time they're not raising, or the 1272 number. And that gives us the odds of them flopping a set or quads at 0.44%, and that comes by multiplying the odds of them flopping a set times the percentage of times they actually have a pocket pair. And this breaks it down to 1 chance in 225.5, so not very often again. Now let's take a look at a different range, and this particular tag, they would only raise with pocket pairs in games, and maybe occasionally ace-king suited. In this situation, they would raise with 64 combos, or about 4.8%, and not raise with the other 95 for the rest of it. However, they don't have very many pocket pairs left that they're not raising with, and it comes out to be 18 combos here. In this example, 4s, 3s, and deuces. So when you divide that into the not raising range, that comes out to about 1.43% of the time they're going to have a pocket pair left, and their odds of flopping a set are 1 in 8.5 or 11.75%. So the odds of them flopping a set or quads come out to 0.17%, or 1 in 600 hands, which means they're almost never going to have a set, and if it is, it's a really small one from this particular range. Now let's take a look at our last variation of how you walk through the mechanics of figuring out if the big blind has a set or not in a limp pot. And this player style is a maniac, and the tricky thing about a maniac is they have a wide range of what their preference is in certain situations for raising. So we try to figure out what hands they wouldn't raise with, and that can be a challenging aspect. So we're just going to go with the range we have in front of us here to get the math idea. They're raising with 432 combos in this example, or about 32.6%. And this particular range has 18 combos left, or 2% of hands that they have pocket pairs that they didn't raise pre-flop, or 2% of the hands that they're not raised, that they didn't raise with. And if we multiply that by the percentage of set odds, which is 11.75, that comes out to a flop set quads probability of 0.024%, which means approximately 1 in 422 hands they're going to have a set. So they're not going to, if they're firing back out of the blind, they most likely have a draw or even possibly 2 pair, but they're not going to have a set very often in this situation because they would raise pre-flop with a lot of the hands that would give them a set. So in closing, one of the critical drivers is basically breaking down a range of how a player plays and what they would raise with, and then figuring out what they don't raise, and then using those assumptions to figure out the probability of them flopping a set in an unraised or limped pot. And this pretty much wraps up our video. Thank you for watching.